All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with a band who has not been on the podcast before, but we've certainly been, I think, aware of each other over the years. And I guess the best way to start this off is just if the three of you who are here want to introduce yourselves and give a bit of background about what it is you do in the band so people can put a name to the voice.
Okay,
So whoever
go
wants to
ahead,
start.
Adam.
I'm Keegan. I am the guitarist and vocalist from Ramskull. Uh, I play violin a little bit on the record too.
Cool.
I'm Mike, I guess the founding member of Ramskull, I guess. And I play bass and do backup vocals and screams and all that fun stuff.
Cool.
And I'm Carson. I play guitar and do backup vocals in the band now, but on the record, I played the drums. I was the drummer for the last album cycle, and there's a little bit of auxiliary percussion that I did littered in there too on the
Cool.
album. So.
Cool. I do want to talk about the new record, but I think that maybe like for people who aren't familiar with the band, if you could give a bit of background about sort of where you're coming from musically and how long this has been a band, because I know you've had, you know, obviously some difficulties in the past getting to where you are now, but the band's been around for a long time. You have a previous record that came out, and so what's sort of the timeline here on how long this has been a group?
Well, we used to be a band called 16 Eyes, and we started that in about 2007.
Okay,
And
I remember the
between
name. The name's familiar for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have a couple of the albums, or at least one of them anyway.
I'm not sure. I might. I got a lot.
Yeah, it's the Roman numerals with 16 XVI eyes there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, me and our our fallen brother Shane Fletcher, we started 16 Eyes, and it kind of morphed into Ramskull after probably around 2015,
Okay.
where we just wanted to kind of streamline what we were doing a little bit more. So we put out the first album in 2017, and we actually started working on this new album like right around then, like it's like not far after that. So 2018, I think we figured started doing some pre-production on it, and then uh work towards it. But then between the pandemic hitting and yeah, as I kind of alluded to earlier, uh our the singer on the CD, Shane Fletcher, we lost him in November of 2020. So it's been a long struggle, if you will, and a lot of taken a lot to get back to where we are right now. And what we're doing to kind of honor Shane's memory and everything like that. This whole album, Parasitic Sapiens, is kind of his brainchild when it came to what we wanted to do and everything like that. So it's kind of like just a really big tribute to him.
Was the plan always to release this, or was there a lot of sort of thinking about what to do after that point? I mean, when you lose a member of your band, especially someone who's contributed that much, I mean, that's hard in any situation. Obviously, I mean, were you considering just sort of ending it at that point and not moving forward with these songs that have been worked on and recorded, or was there always the idea, even after his passing, that like you wanted to get this out there?
Uh, I don't think it was ever really a question. Like it was always like that we were gonna do this. It's just a matter of when.
Okay.
You know, we had it like for the most part, like every song is pretty much exactly how Shane like had his kind of his stamp of approval on it, like his parts and everything like that. There's only one song on the album where we had to kind of put together vocals and everything like that to kind of supplement everything. Otherwise, we had already had everything recorded. So it was not, it really wasn't a question of if we were going to put it out. It's just like when and how long it's going to take us to wrap our heads around doing it. And not to mention the pandemic that kind of like really compounded, not being able to do it. And, like it made
Yeah.
it tougher to get it out anyway.
No doubt, yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to ask next too. Is I mean, first of all, you have losing a band member, and then you have 2.5 years of just uncertainty and not necessarily being able to get together even to rehearse. And so, how did you get, I guess, from that point to where you are now, where you're playing shows, you have a record out? I mean, it's a huge amount of work for anyone to kind of get back to where they were with the pandemic, but you had this extra obvious level of difficulty there, just in trying to keep the band going and find a way to make it work, without a key member.
Well, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I mean, at the time of Shane's passing, we really only had one day left in the studio, and it was basically just me, Mike, and Carson. Our parts, like I had a few guitar solos, Mike had a couple bass parts. Carson wanted to add his percussion and just a bit more vocals and such on there. So we were quite close to being done, and then Shane's passing coincided with the first like real lockdown in Manitoba.
Yeah.
It was around the same time. And yeah, we were all just, it was one of the saddest times in any of our lives, and we're still very sad about everything to this day. But like Mike was saying, we had to keep going as a band. There was no question about releasing the album, finishing it up. Admittedly, though, yeah, it took us, well, with the pandemic, with complications of not being able to be in the same room together and things like that, it took us a long time to get back at it. This last winter, I think as a group, we were pretty much like, well, I'm gonna be back to work in the summer, like, doing like 50 hours a week with my arborist job, and like we're all gonna be super busy. If we don't do it like this spring, then like, when are we gonna get this album finally recorded? So yeah, March 5th, 2022, we got back in the studio. I don't even know if we even really hung out as a group much before that day, and
You probably couldn't, right? You probably didn't have much opportunity to even make that happen.
Yeah, it seemed every time that we tried to make it happen, there was another, like, oh, can't have that many people in a room, can't have people in your house, can't, like those things, right? So we kind of just put a lot of trust in each other, just to kind of like be prepared, and like all three of us all had like a very strong relationship with Shane, and so like that was like as being like probably one of the saddest things that we've had to deal with, hardest things we've had to deal with, is also like a really big part of the grieving process for all of us, I think, so, but like and now being a band again and being able to be out and playing shows and stuff like that, like it's all how do you even like,
It runs the
without
full gamut.
on it so much. Go ahead, Matt. What was that?
Oh, just thinking that like the live shows, they run the full gamut of emotions. I'm maybe putting words in your mouth. I apologize, but like they're both like a excellent cathartic experience, but also pretty sad.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah, yeah, and obviously, I didn't want to have you guys on the show to just talk about sad shit the whole time, but this is clearly like this is clearly a huge thing to happen to any band, right? And obviously, I mean, I guess how does it feel now? And now that you're back, I mean, you got to get back together, you got to go to the studio, you've played shows. What is that like? I mean, in 2022, when you've gone through a pandemic, you've gone through losing a member, you're trying to kind of put the band back together in a way that probably feels respectful to his memory too, right? I mean, what is it like getting back out there now, knowing that you've had this past few years of just turmoil?
It definitely is kind of a surreal feeling, like, and you get like we have like, I don't know, it like it does, as good as it feels, as big as it feels like we're like something's missing, but at the same time it doesn't, like it feels good, like it being out and being able to do it, and being like our community, like the music community is so like welcoming,
Yeah.
and like, and so it like we've never, I mean, I've never really felt like I've been going through this grieving process by myself too, like it affected a lot of people in different ways. Like a lot of people knew Shane, a lot of people, and all those things, right? So there's like we've got like a great response from people just being like, "Hey guys, like it's so great that you guys are back out doing this." You know, like another person said to me, "Is like, you know, like most bands, especially I mean local bands and stuff like that. I guess like you know, like we're definitely not a label band or anything where there's any money associated to this, right? You know, so like a lot of like they just wouldn't be a band anymore, right?
For sure.
So you know, so um we all like each other. You know, and we just want to make we all like really enjoy making music together, and so that's a really big motivation. Like nobody really wanted to lose that feeling with each other, so like if anything, like being out and being able to like do it all together, the three of us, all the four of us, like Jamie's not here, so like kind of like what we did to kind of to adjust this, like Carson said earlier, like that he played drums on the album and he was our drummer, and Carson's a great drummer, but he's also a really good guitar player. So Carson's come over and he's kind of taken on some of what Shane did. Keegan's taken on what Shane did, and the three of us are kind of sharing his vocals. And then we were able to grab a drummer by the name of Jamie Otto, and Jamie's fantastic. So he's kind of and Jamie actually, to kind of tie it back, did some touring with us when we were 16 Eyes. So
Oh, cool. Okay.
so he knew Shane. So it's just kind of keeping it all within the family. So to get out and like we're doing this for us, we're doing this for Shane, and we really kind of believe in this record too. Like we think that we made a good record. So it's kind of like it's a big feeling. It feels like, you know, we're actually kind of doing something cool here. So
Yeah. Personally, I love our music. I am very happy to be in this band, and yeah, it was hard to come back, you know, after everything, but there's no doubt in my mind that I wanted to like be in a band, and like these guys are, you know, my best, among my best friends, of course, and like we're a family, and I'm just really happy to be playing these songs again. We've only had one show so far since March 13th, 2020, I guess, was our last show, like the day before everything shut down kind of thing, at the 40 in Brandon. And then like our first show back was October 14th at the Pyramid, which was quite an awesome venue to have a comeback show.
Yeah.
We basically headlined and had an amazing crowd, just like a huge crowd at that venue, which I couldn't even believe for like a local show. And the crowd was so enthusiastic, and like, you know, we put it all out there, and they gave it right on back to us. So it's amazing. Like, coming back to your question earlier, it's an amazing feeling, getting to play shows again. And we have two coming up. Well, one, I guess by the time this broadcast will have played at the Albert. We have this poster up for it. And then our coming show will be so that one that
will have happened. Yeah.
The thing comes out is November 19th. And then the other one that will be coming up after the podcast here is released is November 25th, Friday, November 25th at the 40 in Brandon. So we're almost doing a little mini Manitoba 2-day tour, I guess, over the course of 2 weekends.
Right on.
Promote the new album and play some shows again here. So.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you're back at it. I mean, especially since no one has really known for the last little while, even now, what's going to happen with the pandemic, whether shows are still, I mean, they're happening thankfully at the moment, but you know, next week things could shut down again. So it's good to see everyone is trying to fit in as many shows as they can, basically, while we can do it. But about the album, about the new record, I know it, like you said at the beginning, this is something that was started quite a while back before all of this. How do you feel the sound has progressed from the first one to this new record? And I know it's a new record, but it's also an old record, right? So do you think that it's I mean, maybe it hasn't taken as much of a jump sonically as it would have if you released an album that was written and recorded in 2022 versus 2017, right? How do you sort of feel about the way the sound has changed and evolved from the first record to the second one?
Carson.
Okay, sure. The band is evolving all the time, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, I didn't drum on the first album, so right there, like you've got a different drummer from album 1 to 2, and it's looking like you're gonna have a different one from album 3. So like, it's almost a Spinal Tap situation where we're just like crushing through drummers per album. Fortunately, none have died yet, but it's just kind of like what's been happening with Ramskull. So that's fun, you know, as like from a drummer's perspective, it's neat to listen to albums that have similar people in the front and different people playing the skins. Yeah, it's the first album I'm on, and the first album that Keegan's on, so that just changes up the sound a whole bunch right there. But yeah, truthfully, we're not the same musicians we were as when we wrote the album, so it'll be really cool to see what we come up with next.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going at too, because it has been a while, and I mean, even if you haven't been able to play as much as you would have, pre-pandemic, you still, I mean, people change, people get new interests, the sounds they're interested in grow and shift. But I guess like it might be hard to answer because right now you've only played the one show since kind of coming back. But where do you think that you fit in as a band, sort of within the local music scene? Because listening to your stuff, I mean, it's obviously heavy, and that gives you a lot of opportunities to play with metal bands and that whole kind of sub scene in Winnipeg, which is huge, and there's all these different groupings of bands within that. But you also have enough songs that are kind of, I feel like, straight ahead rock song, hard rock maybe. I mean, I know that's a shitty genre descriptor, but it's not as brutal, I guess, right? That you could fit in with more of the type of bands that play sort of straight ahead rock and roll essentially. Do you feel like you have enough of like a nebulous kind of sound that you can fit in with different scenes? I mean, I could see you playing with hardcore bands even, just depending on who's on the bill and sort of where the venue is, right?
Yeah, like that's actually one thing that we've always kind of struggled to identify is kind of like people will ask us like, well, what kind of metal are you, or what kind of, and we just kind of it's Canadian metal. Like it's kind of my cop out for it all the time, because like, yeah, like we were having this discussion not long ago. Like we were putting in an application to play it at Armstrong Metal Fest, and they're asking what kind of genre we are, and so I'm asking the guys like, what are we like, and 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 that's kind of, we still don't know, you know. So like we've been told we're avant-garde metal. We've been told that we are like progressive doom. We've been told that we're progressive death metal, you know. So we just kind of fit, I think, in a lot of categories, but it also kind of, I think that kind of takes us out of some of the scene as well at times, right? Because like there's a lot of clean singing on the album, which is not typical, right? Of especially our scene doesn't necessarily have that much, but
Well, and I think
you know,
that's kind of what I was cluing into as far as like the it could fit in with more of a not outside of the metal scene, because you have those clean singing parts, and obviously the not so clean singing parts, those will fit in very well with the existing metal scene, right? But yeah, there's kind of the two dynamics in the band.
Yeah, so yeah, I think like that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed, is that like that that we do kind of get to play different shows. We get to see different things and different crowds and different people. And like me and Keegan were just talking before, like about, we got some other shows that we're planning for like in February. Like we've got a show at the Goodwill that we haven't finished booking up yet and everything like that. But like we were talking about just like the diversity of the bands that we want to have on the bill for that too. Like we're a diverse band, so like we want to have diverse sounds coming from as much as we can, right? So
Yeah, trying to like intermingle the scenes or whatever, right? Like, get anything from like punk to rock to like death metal to hardcore, whatever. Especially, I think it's like if we like the people in the other bands and like their music, like that's all it takes, really. I don't know.
That's the important bit, right? As long as you can dig what they're doing and it affects you in some way. It could be anything. It could be like you could have a folk singer opening for you, as long as something about that music. I mean, maybe not, but as long as something about their music would kind of fit in with what you're doing in one way or another. And I like shows like that. I feel like we need to have more shows like that where it's just kind of all over the map, but there's some sort of connection, whether it's an obvious one or not, between the artists on the bill.
Yeah.
That wasn't really a question. It was
yeah, like we have our CD release party coming up on the 19th, which is like Sans Regrets opening up, and they're kind of a new band on the scene, which they're absolutely ferocious. Like their lead singer, she is unreal. Like she'll just rip your face off. It's amazing what like the intensity and that comes from her voice, and they're kind of more like a rocky punk band that they play a bunch of Nirvana covers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they dirty it up really well. And then we got Witch Trip and Inhume, which is shout out. What's that?
Sorry, it's Witch Trip's last show. I just found out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you like Witch Trip, go to the show that was 3 days ago.
The show that already ended by the time this came out. Yeah. Well, that's too bad because they're a cool band. Yeah.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Yeah, really awesome band. And then Inhumed is like about as heavy of a band you can get in Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to get heavier than that.
Yeah. So we love playing those types of shows, and we want to continue to like kind of like promote that in the scene, and hopefully like that kind of catches on, and a little bit more anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things that one of you mentioned a few minutes ago, before we got into this whole thing about the defining the question everyone hates, right? The defining the band, was about the potential for album number 3. So I guess like where do you go from here now that you have these records out, and now that you're back, I guess actively a band again? Are you wanting, like, has this kind of inspired you now to get back in there and start writing more songs and doing something new? This experience of coming back and reintroducing yourself to the city, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm we haven't worked on any new songs, but I feel inspired to like come back and write new stuff. And now that we have a new member in the band, Jamie Otto, I'm excited to write new stuff with him and hear his drums, Carson on the guitar. Carson actually wrote one of the songs, the title track, the guitar at least, for the title track of our new album while he was the drummer for the band.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, I think it'll be Ramskull, but it'll be different and new and not like a copy of what we've done before. And yeah, I'm excited. Especially this winter, I'm gonna get some off time when it gets cold out. So I'm quite excited to just get really motivated to write new music. And I don't know when we'll get in the studio next. Like obviously we're gonna be promoting this album for a bit. But yeah, I'm excited to write some new stuff.
Yeah, we have like probably a back catalog too of groundwork of songs that like Shane was such a he was just an unbelievable writer that he used to just like write constantly. I'd wake up daily to something new in my inbox.
Cool.
So we have stuff like in the spirit of Ramskull and what we're kind of like the bare bones of the band. We have a lot to work with when it comes to that too. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of like keep the overall process kind of going for a little bit, but we can really kind of get in there and kind of show what the rest of us are made out of too at this point too. So
that's a good point.
So I think like, I mean, we keep talking to ourselves about like how like it's one thing to be able to like come back and get this album out and promote this album and everything like that. But I think that if we're really gonna like do this, like we have to get that next album out too. So like that's important to I think all 4 of us.
Well, and it's naturally going to sound different just because, I mean, the lineup has changed. You've gone through all this shit you've gone through. I mean, that's gonna impact the sound of the record for sure. So yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to hear what the sort of 2.0 Ramskull, I guess, sounds
Yeah.
like compared to these two records. Yeah, yeah. So at this point, I mean, obviously your release show is happening between when this is recorded when it comes out, but where can people find the record? I mean, what's the best way? I know we're in this dystopian future where you can hear things in all these crazy platforms, but where would you encourage people to check out the album?
Well, the album we'll have it at all our shows. It's online everywhere. Bandcamp has it. You can buy it on Bandcamp. And we'll have it in all the Sunrise Records in Winnipeg as well after we play the Brandon show, then we'll have everything everywhere. So be able to get a physical copy if you
Nice.
go to a mall, and yeah, it's everywhere online.
I can do deliveries within reason.
I like it within reason. Yeah, you need to add that in there just in case. And then I guess like for the first record, are there still physical copies out there? I think I saw one at one of the mall stores.
Actually, we sold the last ones at our last show.
Oh, nice.
So, but we're gonna repress them, but we're just gonna kind of work on this one for right now. And but that album too is everywhere online at Bandcamp and everything like that. So
yeah, so I mean, most people are not me, and most people are actually doing stuff by streaming, so they can find it
Yeah.
for sure. So aside from that, I mean, the good thing about this being a podcast is someone could hear it the day it comes out, or they could hear it 6 months from now, and by then you might very well have new music out and a bunch of shows. What's the best way to keep track of where Ramskull is and what you're doing sort of whenever someone hears this?
So we're pretty active on Instagram. So everything is what is our Instagram? Official Ramskull?
I'll link to it. I'll link to it in the show notes too, so people can just
Yeah.
Which I should know it off the top of my head, but it's just on my phone. Yeah, so we're pretty active on Instagram. You can find us through Manitoba Music as well. We've got our profile and music up on Manitoba Music. Facebook, we're pretty active as well. But and yeah, so those three are basically like the three ways to keep us in your hearts.
Awesome. And I see the two of you are wearing your own merch, which is something I always endorse. I love seeing that. It's the best when bands wear their own merch. That's awesome. Very nice.
Got to show off the skull.
Oh, that's the back. And for people who aren't seeing this, it's got the album cover on the back of the hoodie. Very nice. And I assume people can get those at shows and whatnot too, right?
Yeah. We have t-shirts, hoodies. We got long sleeves coming that look amazing. And
very cool.
Yeah, lots of CDs right now. So
awesome.